Our issue segment tonight, President-elect Donald Trump told the Washington Post this weekend, this is his quote, "We're going to have insurance for everybody. There was some philosophy in some circles that if you can't pay for it, you don't get it. That's not going to happen with us." Now, of course, this set off politicos on both sides of the aisle because President-elect Trump has spent the last year and a half promising to repeal Obamacare, trashing the individual mandate even. But realistically, how can you ensure every person has health insurance if there's not a mandate? With me now with the answer from the Heritage Foundation, Senior Fellow at the Health Policy Center, Bob Moffit. Bob, thanks for being here.
Great to be with you, Liz.
All right, Bob, I talked with Suhail Khan earlier in the show about whether Trump was actually talking about an individual mandate when he made that comment, whether he was talking about forcing people to have health insurance or whether he was talking about enabling access, everyone having access to health insurance. Suhail thought that he meant access. What is your quick thought on that?
Mike, well, the quick thought on it is that, yes, they're going to provide access. What Donald Trump said early on was that nobody's going to fall through the cracks. And certainly on Capitol Hill, if you look at what the Republicans are talking about, they're talking about a very, very smooth transition, that they're going to repeal major provisions of Obamacare through the reconciliation or the budget process, but then they're going to transition to a new system. And the idea is to provide access to everybody to get the insurance that they want and provide financial assistance for those who cannot afford health insurance. So I think some of this hysterical language about millions of people being thrown off coverage, that's simply not the case.
Right.
There's certainly no plan to do that.
Right, and perhaps President-elect Trump is using talking point versus talking point. When the Democrats use that 20 million people talking point, he's saying, well, no, we're going to provide for everybody too, just to combat it with one phrase versus one phrase instead of something that I think the Republicans fall vulnerable to so many times, and that's combating a Democratic talking point with a very lengthy, complex plan that's not easy to describe.
Well, no, I mean, health insurance is a very complex area, but here's the point. Yesterday, Congressman Tom Price, who is a physician, the nominee for the Secretary of HHS, made it very clear to members of the Senate that they are going to make sure that they don't pull the rug out from anyone, so that there's not going to be any kind of massive uninsurance. And so some of these hysterical claims that millions of people are going to lose their coverage is simply nonsense. However, I do want to make a very critical point here about the state of the market. What came out in the hearing yesterday with Congressman Price is that the individual market has been wrecked by the Affordable Care Act. Now, there are about 20 million people roughly who get subsidies either through Medicaid or because they get insurance through the exchanges. About 12 million on Medicaid, maybe 8 million who are getting private coverage through the exchanges. That's actually not the serious problem. The serious problem is that there are about 10.2 million people who are getting coverage in the individual market, and they get no subsidies at all. And then there's another 15 million in the small group market, and they are under the same rules as the people in the individual market. And those people are facing horrendous costs. As you know, nationwide in the exchanges, health insurance premiums are going up by 25%. In some states, you're talking about much higher costs. And individuals in the individual market are facing horrendous deductibles. $6,000 for an individual or $12,000 for a family if they enroll in the lowest cost bronze plans. Well, really, the serious problem now is with the people who have coverage, how do you rescue them from a law which is now threatening to uninsure those people who are already insured? That is why Congress has got to move fast on this. The individual markets are in very serious shape, and what the new president and the Congress has to do is to send the right signals to the insurance industry, send the right signals to the markets to stabilize those markets and make sure that we do not end up with much higher rates of uninsurance over the next several months.
Maybe this is an obvious question, but it seems to me that Republicans sometimes aren't the clearest about explaining this. And I believe, if my math is correct, that's about 25 million people that you just described who are that do not
That's
have
correct.
subsidies and who are privately insured here. They're the ones who are suffering the premium increases, the deductibles being so high that they end up paying for the healthcare coverage out of their own pockets, and it's getting to be unsustainable because, as we know, it's just increasing year after year. So how is that done? If the goal is to rescue these people so that they don't lose their coverage because they can't afford it, but make it affordable to them, how does Congress do that? How does President-elect Trump do that? How does Congressman Tom Price do that?
That's an excellent question. By the way, 15 million of those people are in the small group market, and they will get tax breaks as employees in employer-based coverage. The people who are most in trouble here are the people who buy health insurance coverage on their own, but they make no more than maybe $47,000 a year, and they do not get any type of subsidy. Now, with regard to the replacement, what has to happen here, and I hope that Congress does it, they have to provide individual tax relief for people who buy insurance. That is to say, if you buy insurance, if you cannot or do not get health insurance through the place of work, the Congress has got to establish individual tax relief to offset the cost of your insurance purchases. Right now, these people get nothing. And if you, for example, in the job that you're in or the job I'm in,
right,
if we lose our job or change our jobs, and we have to buy health insurance on the individual market, we have to buy it with after-tax dollars. But what that means, Liz, is that we will be paying 25 or 35 or 40 or even 50% more in health insurance premiums for the same coverage we would have gotten at the place of work, simply because we don't have the generous tax breaks that exist for 90% of Americans who get health insurance at their place of work. So Congress has got to fix this inequity. If Congress can fix that inequity and say to you, look, if you buy health insurance on the individual market, you'll get a tax break, what that means is that you will be able to pick and choose the kind of plan you want, and hopefully we will legalize more options than the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
So
then the high standards, because right now you have to have that comprehensive coverage. Then if I heard you correctly, if I'm understanding this whole thing correctly, if Congress implements, I should say, individual tax relief so that individuals can get insurance on their own, not just through their employers. If they actually implement that, that would make health insurance plans 25, 30, 40, even 50% cheaper, like you're saying, which actually puts into place the idea that health insurance can be affordable again.
Right. The exact number of the exact amount of how much it would be cheaper would vary from insurance market to insurance market. But one of the overwhelming facts about the Ryan proposal, for example, is that when it was analyzed by independent researchers at the Center for Health and the Economy, they concluded one thing. Whatever you think about the Ryan plan would significantly reduce health insurance premiums for Americans, and that is a big change.
Right.
Certainly we want to expand access as much as possible, but the big problem facing Americans right now is the cost of coverage, and these insurance costs are horrendous.
Right.
The other important point here is that if you have individual tax relief, it means you will be able to have portability in health insurance. You'll be able to take your coverage from job to job if a company doesn't offer insurance, but you'll be able to take your insurance from job to job without a tax or regulatory penalty. Right now,
and that just simplifies the whole system. And I think you're hitting on it exactly right, because the idea of access, that's a symptom of affordability. If something's not affordable, then it's not access. That's just simple economics. It's simple common sense here. And it seems at least the past 8 years, our politicians in Washington haven't really understood that principle. Bob, unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you so much for breaking this issue down. It was great. All right, guys, you know the drill. Talk to me. Tweet Liz_Wheeler. You know I read all your tweets. And we'll meet you back here in just a minute.